The European Union. You've definitely heard of it. It affects the lives of over 400 million people, but trying to understand how it actually works, yeah, that can feel like trying to solve a giant, complicated puzzle. So today, we're going to cut right through all that complexity to tackle one huge question.
Who is really calling the shots in Brussels? Is it some faceless bureaucrat tucked away in an office? Is it the powerful leaders of countries like France and Germany? Or is it, us, the citizens? To figure this out, we need a bit of a roadmap.
So here's how we're going to do it. First up, we'll unpack the core tension that makes the whole system tick. Then, we'll get to know the four key institutions in the game. And finally, we'll put all those pieces together and actually answer our big question.
All right, so to really get the EU, you have to wrap your head around this constant tug of war that shapes every single thing it does. It all boils down to two big competing ideas. Okay, so think of it like this. On one hand, you've got supranationalism. That's a fancy word, but it just means EU-level bodies hold the power, and they're supposed to act for the common good of the entire union. But on the other hand, you have intergovernmentalism, and that's all about the individual countries, the member states, holding onto their power and looking out for number one. This tension, this constant back and forth between Team EU and Team National Interest, it's literally the key to understanding everything else.
So, that's the theory. But how does this all play out in the real world? Well, let's dive in with our first big player, the European Commission. I like to think of it as the EU's engine room, the part that's always trying to push the whole project forward.
The whole point of the Commission is to think and act for the EU as a whole, not just for France or Poland or Spain, but for the entire Union. You can kind of compare it to the executive branch or the civil service of a regular country. And the people who work there, they're supposed to leave their national hats at the door.
So how's it set up? Well, it's basically got two main parts. At the very top, you have the political leadership. That's called the College of Commissioners, and there's one from each member state, all led by a president. Then, underneath them, you have the massive administration. These departments called Directorates General, or DGs for short. They're the ones doing the day-to-day work.
So what does this engine room do all day? Four big things. First, and this is a huge one, it proposes new laws. And get this, it's the only part of the EU that can kickstart a new law. Second, it manages the money and the policies. Third, it acts as the guardian of the treaties, which is a cool way of saying it's the rule enforcer. And fourth, it represents the EU to the rest of the world on things like trade.
Okay, but here's the catch. The Commission can't just make laws all by itself. Nope. For any of its proposals to become reality, they have to get a green light from the EU's two lawmakers. It's a classic two-house system, kind of like a Senate and a House of Representatives.
And here they are, the Council of the European Union and the European Parliament. These two have to work together. They're the ones with the shared power to pass, change, or just flat-out reject any new European laws. Now, the biggest difference between them, and this is so important, is who they speak for. The Council, that's all about the national governments. It's where ministers from each country show up to fight for their nation's interests. Remember that intergovernmental idea? This is it in action. But the European Parliament is totally different. Its members are elected by you, by the citizens. It's supposed to be the voice of the people, and that is our supranational side. But this whole equal partnership thing is actually pretty new. For a long, long time, the Parliament was, well, it was kind of a joke. A talking shop, they called it, with basically no real power. The story of how it clawed its way up to become a genuine lawmaker is honestly one of the biggest deals in the EU's entire history. And you can see that incredible journey right here. Back in the 50s, nothing, just a talking shop. But then, bam, 1979, we get the first direct elections. That gave it legitimacy, a real mandate from the people. From there, each new treaty gave it a little more muscle, until finally, the Lisbon Treaty in 2009 made it official. For most things, Parliament is now an equal partner to the Council, a huge change. And you can literally see this supranational idea when you walk into the Parliament chamber. The members don't huddle together by country. You won't see a Team Germany or a Team Italy. Instead, they sit in big political groups based on what they believe. So a socialist from Germany is sitting and voting right next to a socialist from Spain, not with a conservative from back home. It's about ideology, not nationality.
Okay, so we've got the institution that proposes the laws and the two that pass them. But who's the referee? Who makes sure everybody is actually playing by the rules they just made? Well, that's where our final player comes in. The Court of Justice of the European Union, or CJEU for short. They're the ultimate umpire.
Their main job, their whole reason for being, is to make sure that an EU law means the exact same thing in every single country. It can't mean one thing in Lisbon and something else in Warsaw. It has to be consistent. Without that, the whole system just falls apart. It's the legal glue holding everything together. And to make this happen, the court came up with two legal superpowers right at the beginning. First is supremacy. That's simple. If a national law and an EU law clash, the EU law wins, period. And the second one is called direct effect. And this one was a total game changer, especially for regular people like you and me.
So what on earth is direct effect? It's actually pretty amazing. It means that you, personally, can walk into your local court and say, hey, I have this right under EU law. And the court has to listen, even if your own country hasn't gotten around to passing a law about it. It gives EU law real power, right down to the grassroots level. Let me give you a classic example that shows just how big a deal this is. It's a famous case about booze, the Cassis de Dijon case. So Germany tried to ban this French liqueur because it wasn't strong enough by German standards. The court stepped in and said, hold on, if it's legal to sell in France, you can't just ban it in Germany. And with that one decision, the court basically blew the doors open for the single market that we have today. Incredible, right?
Right. So we've met the engine room, the two lawmakers, and the referee. We have all the pieces on the board. Let's go back to that big question we started with and see if we can finally solve this puzzle.
So, after all that, let's ask it one more time. Who really runs the European Union? Is it the Commission? Is it the national governments and the Council? Or is it the Parliament that we elect?
And the answer is, well, it's a bit of a trick question. The answer is none of them. Not by themselves, anyway. And that is the entire point. The EU is this incredible puzzle of shared power. The Commission gets to propose. The Parliament and the Council get to decide, but only if they agree. And the court is there to make sure everyone follows the rules. It's a system of checks and balances from top to bottom, all defined by that constant push and pull between what's good for the whole EU and what's good for the individual countries.
So when someone asks who runs the EU, the real answer isn't a single person or a building. It's a process. It's this never-ending negotiation between the national and the European. It's a one-of-a-kind political experiment, unlike anything else on the planet. Power isn't held by one entity. It's carefully, and sometimes messily, balanced between many. And maybe the real question isn't who's in charge today, but how will this incredible, delicate balancing act change tomorrow?